Hello, my name is Nicole Dillon and welcome to How to Choose Montessori Aligned Books. I am a mom of two girls and I have a passion for the Montessori lifestyle, and I love sharing Usborne books and more, or really any books with my children. So let's get started. A little bit of housekeeping before we get going. This is being recorded, so feel free to turn off your camera if you do not want to be on film. Please utilize the chat function if you have any questions, or if you are watching this on replay, please feel free to send me an email or find me on Facebook. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. And I want to say that I'm not an expert. I'm just a mom with a passion for the Montessori lifestyle and a desire to help other parents along their journey. It truly takes a village to raise a child, and this is just a small way that I can contribute to that mission. Also, I will say that there are kind of different levels of the Montessori lifestyle. There are the purist that stick very strictly to what Maria Montessori had to say in all of her documentation and all of her wonderful books that she left for us. And then there are modern Montessorians, and I would consider myself more of a modern Montessorian. So there are particular books, for example, that the positives outweigh the negatives, and so I choose to use those books with my children because I do see the benefit there for them to use them. So let's get started. Here are two images here. Which image is considered Montessori aligned? The picture on the left, which is a wonderful storybook called Twinkle Twinkle Bedtime Book, and you've got a little boy looking outside, and not a boy but a baby bear looking outside, and you have Papa Bear or Mama Bear reading a book as they get ready for bedtime. And then the picture on the right, you have some children playing in the library. So which one do you think is the more Montessori aligned? Any ideas? Okay. If you answered the one on the right, you are correct. Let's dig a little deeper as to why this particular book is more Montessori aligned than the other one. I thought it would be easy to simplify this by going through an acronym that I created, READ. Because we all love to read, right? And I will say that no books are bad per se. I think reading to your children in general is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing for their development, and with their gross motor skills, their fine motor skills, turning the pages, and their imagination, and their reading and language skills developing, their social skills are developing. So I really think no matter what the subject matter is, as long as you're reading to your child, that's great. But today I'm going to share with you how to choose more Montessori aligned books based on the principles that Maria Montessori wrote. So I use the acronym READ: realistic, engaging, adorable, and diverse. So let's dig a little deeper into each of those. The first one, the R, is realistic. So this storybook is showing real children doing real life things. Here's a quote from Maria Montessori: "The young child cannot distinguish well between the real and the imaginary, between things that are possible and things that are merely made up." So when you're on that first plane, and when I refer to first plane throughout this presentation, I'm talking about children 0 to age 6. So when they're in that first plane of development, they do not have the ability to think abstractly. So literally what you tell them is what they believe. They think it's very, very true. It's very easy to get children on board with like the most outrageous things in the world. So they just can't, and they totally believe you and totally think that like superheroes are real and Santa Claus and they pirates, like princesses. I mean, the pirates and princesses they do exist, but things that do not exist, in their minds, they really do exist and they really are real. And we want to make sure our children understand things about our real world and our real life. And so the two different storybooks that I showed you initially, the one, bears obviously don't read books. So to a child, they may think that that's a real thing, and that really does happen. This example is much better because it's showing children going to the library. It's a real experience that they will have. Now, sometimes Maria Montessori, the Montessori way, gets a bad kind of reputation for not allowing children to be creative or imaginative, and that's just not the case whatsoever. There is a difference between fantasy and fiction. So fantasy would be adult made up stories. So things that adults have created and that are impossible to happen in real life. Versus fiction is fully embraced, and you can be imaginative with fiction stories. This story is probably a fiction story, for example. It's children going to the library, and they talk about their adventures and the things that they see in their books. So it's a fiction story. It's not a true story, but it is something that could definitely happen in real life. And you may be saying, well, there's a boy dressed as a pirate down in that right-hand corner. Well, how is that Montessori aligned? Well, because the child chose to do that, right? So when we do fantasy and imaginative and creativity, it's fully embraced, but the child needs to lead, right? The child needs to make up those things in their mind, not be told things that adults may have come up with that are completely impossible. And we want to encourage real language development. So avoiding books that may have baby talk or things like that. Don't be afraid to share with your children books that have big words, for example. And I'll dig into that a little bit deeper here in a second. Engaging. So follow the child. If your child's interested in pirates, by all means, read pirate books. And then you can talk about with that can lead on to like exploring the ocean and exploring different types of boats and how boats work. There's so many things that if a child shows an interest in that you can follow, and kind of that's our job. We follow the child we follow their interest. So if the child is interested in pirates, then you can kind of lead them along the way to introduce them to other things that relate to pirates, and it just kind of explodes and expands their learning and their vocabulary based off of that. What else? Rich language. So find books that have rhyme and rhythm and can create movement and alliteration, and don't be afraid of big words, as I said before. Children, this is the perfect time for children to learn big words. For my daughter's preschool, the parents take turns right now because of COVID, creating lessons. And my husband, I made one on science and the scientific method. And my husband said, hypothesis, like the scientific method, don't you think that's a little advanced for 3 and 4-year-olds? And I said, absolutely not. They are absolutely 100% able to learn the scientific method, to say words like hypothesis, and to make predictions about what they think will happen. We did a sink float activity, what they think will happen. They're perfectly capable. They're little people, but their minds are just sponges. So you can really teach them some big vocabulary and great vocabulary at this time, and don't be afraid to do so. There's a really great Montessorian, Aubrey Hargis. You may have heard of her. She runs a Child of the Redwoods, and I follow her and actually subscribe to her kind of community for Montessori parents and Montessori homeschoolers. And I love that she encourages you to read adult literature to your children, expose your children to adult poetry and adult things. What they're learning doesn't always have to be, obviously it needs to be something that they may be interested in and needs to be appropriate for them. But reading an adult poem that's about nature, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and it exposes them to things that they will be seeing in the future and gets them interested early in being lifelong learners. Also, make sure the actual books that you're showing them are age appropriate. So we want to limit the words on pages. There are some storybooks where there are just words, and they just get lost. They can't follow along. So here's some good rules of thumb for babies. You want 1 image per page, along with maybe 1 simple word. Then for toddlers, a very simple sentence, 3 or 4 word sentence. And then preschoolers, you want to start getting into a storyline. Can they follow the story? Can they make predictions about what's going to happen in that story? Can they summarize the story after you finished it? That's kind of the benchmarks that you want to look for their abilities to do that. And then as you go into elementary and finishing up that first plane leading into the second plane, you can have increasingly complex stories that then lead to chapter books and things like that. Okay. Adorable, beautiful illustrations. Make sure that those pictures are beautiful and detailed, and it again goes back to engaging. Another thing, this particular picture here, there is so much meat here, right? There are so many things that you can talk about with this just one simple page, right? Oh, look, there's art on the wall. Do you like to draw? What kinds of things do you like to draw? Oh, wow. Look at all the colorful books. What colors do you like? Yeah. Oh, what season do you think it is? How are these children dressed? Is it summertime or is it winter? What do you think? Right? So there's so many different opportunities to talk when pictures and illustrations are detail-oriented. They're also a work of art, right? If they're beautiful, they're a work of art. So this opens up the opportunity to teach our children how to care for things, how to care for our books. We don't rip our pages, we don't bend our pages, we don't flip the spine back, like all of those different things. We treat them how to take care of their things, which is a very Montessori thing to do. Showing independence, giving them the opportunity that once they've proven to you that they can hold and read books with care, then they have the opportunity to read some books on their own and look through pictures on their own. Make sure they have interesting details. I talked about this already, extending your reading time by doing picture walks. So kind of what I was doing, going through those examples, one thing that I love to do, let me just grab a book for you to see. I might just, this is one of my favorites, What Are Germs? So I might flip through. What do you think? Before I even read, I'm not even reading any words on the page. What do you think is going on here? What do you see? What are the children doing? Oh, have you ever been on those? Where are they? Oh, look at these kids. They must have played. They're playing games. What are they playing? Do you like to play those things too? What's your favorite game? For example, things like doing activities like that. Is a great way to not only extend your reading time for parents that are looking to like, oh, I need more time. I need more activities. I need less screen time, right? So that's one way to extend your reading time and your story time is to do a picture walk first. Have them make predictions. If they're preschoolers and up, have them make predictions of what they think will happen, see what catches their eyes, and then go back and read through it. Okay. Diverse. That's our last one. So Maria Montessori placed an importance on global development, teaching the child about the world around them, right? We want children to know that there are people that are very different from them, right? We have people of all colors, ethnicities, and abilities, right? This particular book shows all of that. There are white children, there are black children, there's a redhead, there's a girl in a wheelchair. So there's a lot of variety here, and you can talk about those things as well as you're reading books. Making sure they're culturally diverse. So grabbing books that maybe are a different culture than your own, or talk about holidays that you don't celebrate, or cultural traditions that you don't celebrate. Those things are really important to include in our children's learning, so that they grow up to be kind and inclusive adults. Also showing books that highlight a growth mindset through other children's experiences of hardships and challenges. Right, so it's a little difficult for a child to understand or grasp the concept of emotions if you're reading an emotions book with a bear or a robot showing emotions. Like, they just can't relate. But when they see other children showing emotions that they feel, there's much more opportunity for them to relate and for it to stick too. So that when they are going through emotions, you can say to your child, what are you feeling? How do you feel? Do you feel like this? And even bring out the book. Can you show me what you feel like? Okay. And then emphasize family bonds and cultural important traditions that may be different from their own. I mentioned that already. So great. That's about all that I have for you. I thought I would take a couple minutes just to show you another example of Montessori aligned books. So I showed you what are germs. This is one of my favorite series. It is the Lift the Flap very first question answer books. I absolutely love this series. It's one of the best, I think, for young learners. The what are germs and what is poop. These are favorites in our house. These, as I showed you on this one, have real life things in them, right? Most of this series is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. They have real children in them. They have animals, real animals that do exist, and they're doing the real things that that animals truly do. There are no flying whales or, jumping hippos or tutuing ballet hippos. These are animals doing what they are meant to do in the real world. These are great. However, there is another one in this series that I was a little bit disappointed in because it's What Are Feelings, but what are you feeling? It's animals showing these emotions. It's a little difficult for children to identify with a sad raccoon, for example, right? The other thing about these books that's great is that they give you a tactile learning experience, right? So Lift the Flap books, we have Usborne has all kinds of Lift the Flap books, but it's giving them a tactile experience to lift the flap, discover something. When you discover something, you remember something. When you're using all of your senses while you're reading, you will remember what you read. This is another great, very, for the most part, Montessori aligned book. The Finger Trail book. If you use sandpaper letters this is for you. It's an alternative to sandpaper letters. Now, again, the positives outweigh the negatives here. This book has a bear riding a bicycle. Bears don't ride bicycles. However, it's very difficult to find books that are that showcase the lowercase letters. This is a finger trail book. They're able to trace with their fingers each letter and get examples. Very fun kind of alliteration examples of each letter. Teaching your children lowercase letters first gets them reading faster because that's what they see much more frequently than the uppercase letters. And then, of course, our nonfiction books. Things like Life Size. There's a dinosaur one of this too, but this book I absolutely love. It's like a wow book. Let's see. This is a cool page, right? I'm like, can't even show you because I'm going to be out of the frame. So this is the life size of a giant squid, right? It's the actual size of the eyeball of a giant squid. It's incredible. And then you flip the page and there's the whole squid there. Incredible book that just wows me every time I look at it. Wow, how does your mouth compare? Whose mouth is bigger? Right? Really cool, engaging nonfiction books. There's so many. Ava's Spectacular Spectacles. That's a great one for children that may be wearing glasses. I love this Usborne Count to 100 book. Let me show you why. It goes, there's a particular page that's really awesome. Okay, this one. So, 40, for example, this page, it's not just teaching the number 40. There's so many things that you can teach. Look at all the colors here. You can also, they are spaced out in the way that you can teach like things like skip counting, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, etc. So this is an awesome book. We use it almost daily in our house for counting. The Muddle and Match books are also great for language development. You can read the book as it is. Patrick, the plucky plumber, places a patch on the pipe to prevent a puddle on the porch. So you can read them as is, or you can flip the pages. Tessa, the talented teacher, places a patch on the pipes and tests them on triangles and trapezoids. So big words again. For their learning, don't be afraid of things like that. I think trigonometry is on here. Yeah. Zachary the Zingy Zookeeper teaches trigonometry. Teaches the class trigonometry to zero in on zany zigzags. Right? So super fun. Alliteration, rhyming, big words, great vocabulary. There are a bunch of these Muddle and Match books that are super fun. You're never going to read the story the same. So that's about 20 minutes in. So I think that's good. I am more than willing to help you with anything. I'd like to come up with a comprehensive listing of Montessori Aligned books. There are tons and tons available. You're more than welcome to shoot me an email. My email address is here, teachernicolebdt@gmail.com, or you can find me on Facebook. Also, there's Book Fair Week, so I would love it if you would support Ashland Community Preschool through purchases for book fairs, purchases through their book fair. A portion of the proceeds will go back to that great little family-run Montessori preschool. So thank you so much for your time and for listening, and I look forward to working one-on-one with you to come up with some great books for you and your family. Thank you.